A storm is brewing in the heart of Africa, not of chaos, not of crisis, but of pure brilliance. A quiet revolution has just begun, and at the center of it is a teenage girl from Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria, whose name will soon be etched into the very history of African innovation. Her name is Ayabasi, a name that means the beauty of God in her Ibibio language. And indeed, what she has birthed is nothing short of divine. At just 17 years old, Ayabasi has developed an invention that could shift the tectonic plates of global technology, an artificial intelligence-powered phone she calls Ifiak. In Ibibio, Ifiak means wisdom, and this device is exactly that, the embodiment of African wisdom, ingenuity, and futuristic vision. Forget everything you know about phones. The Ifiak isn't just a phone, it's an idea that dares to challenge a system that has long dictated who gets to innovate and who gets to consume. It's a voice-activated, screenless device that uses holographic projections to display data, images, and even video calls in the air like something out of a science fiction movie. You don't touch it, you talk to it, and it talks back intelligently. Ask it to call your mother, and it does. Ask it to show you the weather, and a floating hologram of today's conditions appears right in front of your eyes. But that's just scratching the surface. Because Ifiak doesn't need a charger. It has an inbuilt power system that regenerates energy from both body heat and ambient movement. It never dies on you. It adapts to its environment and recharges from it. Can you imagine? But Ayabasi didn't stop there. The Ifiak phone can track any device through its IMEI number. That means it could help find kidnapped victims, track stolen phones, locate missing persons, or even help in security operations without relying on conventional networks. Have a watch.
Hi, my name is Ayabasi. I'm from Akwa State in Nigeria. I invented this AI phone that has quite a lot of features that a regular phone doesn't have.
Yeah.
It's voice controlled. It doesn't have a screen, but it has a holographic display.
Okay, go on.
It's installed at a cheap rate. You can get this for 3,500 naira.
Okay, so you did a holographic display for 3,500 naira.
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
Watch me make a call. How you feel? Call Mark.
Which Mark?
Marketing.
Calling Mark Essien.
That is quite amazing. So the calls actually work. All right, that's cool.
You can also detect your exact location. How you feel? Where are we?
We are at 4 Point by Sheraton.
So aside that, you can track people's location using their IMEI number. You feel, where is my mom?
She is at the market.
As you can see, my mom is at the market.
Okay, this is pretty cool. What else can it do?
Also, the extra feature is that it comes with an inbuilt charger.
An inbuilt charger. Let me see that. So you just plug it in and it works already. It's great. That's great. What's the name of the phone? Ifiak. All right, that's awesome.
It doesn't need apps to be downloaded from a store in California. It doesn't need updates from corporate servers in Europe. It updates itself. It learns from its user. It evolves. And it was invented by a teenage girl in Nigeria, not in a billion-dollar Silicon Valley lab, not in a Samsung boardroom in Seoul, but in the modest home of a girl whose only lab was her curiosity, her books, her wires, and her relentless mind. This is the kind of story the world media doesn't want you to hear. Because the moment the world realizes that Africa doesn't just have consumers, it has creators, inventors, and visionaries, the narrative collapses. Ayabasi has shattered that narrative. She has exposed the lie that innovation can only come from the West. She has proven what Africa can achieve if left alone, if given the space to breathe, the resources to experiment, and the dignity to own its own genius. And it's not just about technology. It's about liberation. For too long, Africa's mobile communication industry has been a source of profit for foreign companies. The very act of calling your loved ones often means putting money into the pockets of multinational corporations who don't even care if your village has electricity. Airtime has become a tax on being connected. Data is the gatekeeper between Africa and the digital future. But what if that gate was never necessary? What if Africans didn't need to beg for cheaper tariffs or wait for telecom expansions that never come? What if they could just build their own tools? Ayabasi IFIAC is the answer to that what if. The voice recognition software inside the IFIAC isn't some third-party licensed tech. It was built from scratch using open-source AI frameworks, trained to understand not just English, but also Pidgin, Ibibio, Yoruba, Hausa, and over 10 other African languages, with more being added as it learns from users. This is monumental. For the first time, we're seeing a smart device that recognizes African voices in African tongues without the need for translation or adaptation. It means an old woman in a rural village who has never gone to school can talk to her phone in her native language and receive an answer. It means a boy in Kano can speak in Hausa and get directions to his local market. It means Africa's linguistic diversity is finally being respected, not erased. When we think of Africa's potential, we often think in terms of resources, oil, diamonds, gold. But the real gold has always been its people, its young people. The Ayabasi of this continent are its true wealth. If a young girl in Akwa Ibom can create a phone with a holographic display, inbuilt power system, voice intelligence, and tracking capabilities, then what else is possible when we believe in our own? But here's the truth. Without the right support, this brilliance risks fading. This is where Africa must rise not just in pride, but in action. Ayabasi does not need applause. She needs investment. She needs patent lawyers to protect her creation from being stolen. She needs engineers to help scale the production. She needs African governments to wake up and realize that genius is not something to clap for at a science fair. It is something to nurture, fund, and defend. What she doesn't need is foreign tech vultures circling to partner, and then swallow her idea whole, rebranding it as a Western innovation. History is repeating itself, but this time we can change the ending. Think about it. How many African inventions have gone unnoticed, unprotected, unscaled, and ultimately erased? How many stories of young geniuses have died quietly in villages, their inventions buried under the weight of poverty and neglect? Not again. Not with Ayabasi. The IFIAC phone must be the beginning of a new era, an era where Africa's inventions are not just news stories, but global solutions. And let's talk about the symbolism of IFIAC. A phone with no screen, yet more powerful than any iPhone. A voice-powered interface that respects your mother tongue. A device with no charger, yet never dies. Is this not the metaphor for African resilience? For the invisible brilliance that doesn't always flash on screens, but burns bright in the minds of our people? It is time the world stops looking at Africa as a blank screen and starts seeing the hologram, complex, rich, multidimensional, and blazing with color. Imagine an Africa where every child learns coding in their language, where tech labs are built not in urban centers, but in every school, every village, every district. Imagine IFIAC being used across hospitals to coordinate remote diagnostics, in markets to facilitate AI-powered trade, in schools to deliver holographic lessons to places without teachers. Imagine AI built on African values, on community, care, cooperation. Not surveillance capitalism, not consumerism, but Ubuntu. And what about security? The IMEI tracking system in IFIAC could revolutionize the way we deal with crime. In regions battling insecurity, this technology could be integrated into local security networks, allowing communities to monitor movement, detect stolen devices, and even predict danger based on unusual activity patterns. It's not just a gadget, it's a tool of sovereignty. Even more interesting is what Ayabasi chose not to include. There's no app store to bombard users with Western content. There are no pop-up ads harvesting your data. This is a phone that works for you, not one that minds you. IFIAC doesn't just listen to your voice. It protects it. And in a world where privacy has become a premium feature, that alone makes this invention revolutionary. Africa awakens. This is more than a tech breakthrough. It's a philosophical reset. It's a spiritual awakening. It's the continent saying, we no longer need permission to exist in the future. We are the future. What IFIAC represents is what was always possible, had we been allowed to believe in ourselves. If this story doesn't convince the world that Africa is ready, nothing will. And if it doesn't convince us to protect and promote our own, then what will? Ayabasi, His invention isn't just a marvel. It's a mirror. It shows us who we can be. It shows us who we were before colonization interrupted our trajectory. A people of wisdom, of Ifiak. And now, with this phone, wisdom has returned, not as a whisper, but as a voice-activated hologram with the power to change the world. Let the world watch. Let them gasp. But let them know, this is only the beginning. Africa is not rising. Africa is awakening. And we will not go back to sleep. So the question now is, will you share this story? Will you amplify this moment? Will you help ensure that Ifiak becomes more than just a prototype? Because when one girl creates the future from her room in Nigeria, the least we can do is make sure the world hears her voice. She has spoken. The rest is up to us.